Do you know there are beings who exist in a dimension different from ours, residing in a space connected to Earth, but not in the way you might think? This mysterious realm, part of what some call inner Earth, isn't physical, but vibrational. Inhabited by interdimensional beings like Greys and Reptilians, they exist at a frequency beyond human perception. As a level 2 quantum healing hypnotherapist, I have developed a unique modality known as hypno-channeling. This technique involves hypnotizing a channeler's subject to connect with various spirits, revealing deeper truths about the universe and human life. If you have any paranormal or near-death experiences and would like to know the truth behind them, contact us through healingandretreats.com. In today's video, we will explore how ETs interact with humans. What is their purpose? And how do they navigate between dimensions?
And when I count to 3, you'll be there, maybe in the foot at the entrance of Middle Earth. And 1, I'm taking you there. 2, almost there. And 3.
This is a dimensional place. It's not a physical place.
I see. But it's this dimension still can be considered as in inner Earth, part of inner Earth?
Yes.
And what does it look like?
Doesn't really look like much of anything. It's like it's a vibrational space.
Let's say if someone has a physical body, is there any way to travel?
Not if they're embodied in the way that human beings are. Greys are less densely embodied, so they can occupy that space.
This is again where the Greys reside?
Well, Greys and other interdimensional beings that are at a different vibration than humans are very densely embodied.
So can you look at it, can you zoom out to see the bigger picture of inner Earth? I know there are many different dimensions there. So this is just one layer?
It's a place that's very hard to understand in human terms.
If you can do your best to just give us the concept.
It's not a physical place. It's a frequency where very many different types of interdimensional beings, extraterrestrial, Sasquatch-like beings, cryptids, they can occupy this space because they're not bodied in the ways that human beings and other animals are. They exist primarily at a different vibration. They're less densely embodied. So they exist there, and they can emerge at times into physical reality where you observe them.
So they can, let's say, come to the surface?
Yeah.
Do they see each other?
Yes, if they want to, yes. But it's a very different type of seeing. It's not the way that you see with your eyes. It's energetic.
So let's say the reptilians, there are certain type of reptilians are there?
They can be, yes.
They're all living in a way that they can be in inner Earth as peacefully with each other?
Well, they have different aims and different objectives and different things, different interests in being on Earth. But it's not a zone of conflict. It's just a vibrational space where they exist, kind of a liminal in-between space.
So why, this is my human way of thinking, why they need to be inner Earth? Why they don't choose, how to say, what's the difference between this kind of dimension inside of Earth versus just somewhere in the universe?
Because they have interests in being on Earth and things.
So what is what make them feel Earth is exciting to them?
Possibilities for what you can do here when you're embodied, and human beings have a lot of potential.
So if they like to appear on the surface, they will need to transform their energy?
Yes, their vibration into a more densely embodied state that we're able to sense.
And what they do on the surface?
Many different things depending on who they are and what their reason for being here is. Many of them interact with human beings. Some of them just like to become embodied and experience what it's like to be physical on Earth.
So they can also appear as a human?
Some of them resemble human beings, but some of them also are, again, some type of non-human being that interacts, has contact with humans, shows themselves to humans.
And to get information from us?
They don't really need information from us. They have information, but the different types of experiences that they want to have and to help us in our evolutionary process.
So are there any type of species are not benevolent?
There are many that just have their own interests. They're not malevolent per se. They're just self-interested. Reptilians are not evil or malevolent. They're just out for their own gain.
gain
their own purposes, their own benefit.
I see. But why we have this belief that they are malevolent?
Because humans like to see things in duality in terms of either good or evil, and things really aren't like that.
Uh-huh.
Different beings have different aims, different things that they're doing, but they're not either good or bad. They just are.
So how about, let's say, some government officials, for example, Joe Biden. So seems like his soul is not human soul. In a way, we can say maybe he's occupied, possessed by reptilian. Is that true?
I'm not getting the sense that that's true.
So what is his true being?
He's just a human being having a human experience.
But when I channeled his soul, it seems the soul is being, how to say, controlled by a program.
I'm not getting that sense.
So can you tap into this person, Mark Zuckerberg?
What would you like to know?
So he has a human soul?
Human souls can be influenced by other types of beings, and they may have reptilian energies or other types of beings that are influencing them, but they don't lose their soul.
So you cannot just become like possessed by something else.
Possessions happen. Sometimes a spirit will get very attached to a particular person, and they can be fighting over the body, but that individual's soul never gets, there's not human bodies walking around without human souls in them.
But
they can have spirit attachments or beings that are attached to them at times.
I see. So it's a temporary thing?
Yes.
But I keep hearing that they are a percentage of the population on Earth. They don't have souls. They're just artificials.
I don't know.
So you cannot be a human without the soul. Or without the soul, can human be, how to say, like being managed by a program?
No, not if you're an embodied human being. Now, like there's artificial bodies and things like that can be created, that can be programmed, but a human body is going to have a human soul occupying it.
So what is the walk-in? That has to be this person is in a critical condition, is dying, and then the other soul can walk in, take over?
Sometimes if a person is in a very dark state, they may attract a certain type of being onto their body, and that being attaches to them for some reason.
But they both agreed to do so?
At some level, yes. It's usually something that the individual human soul needs to work out and find their own strength and power and reclaim their body.
So now it's a different question. So let's say when people are doing, let's say psychedelics, let's say ayahuasca, for example, when I was in that journey, I sensed their group of energies, and they were telling me that they are having a spiritual war with me, and they appeared as dark and negative and malevolent. So that is in a way that I projected, my higher self created that. And
yes, because you wanted to learn from it. It was for your soul's own growth.
So let's say if we have a bad experience, let's say dark experience, that's always the case, or most likely that's...
Because it's something that you created or called in to have a certain experience, to teach yourself something, to learn something that you couldn't otherwise know if you hadn't had that experience.
I see. So can we say fear, right? Any type of fear is our own shadow?
Fear is a certain vibration. It's a vibration of separation. It's allowing yourself to not feel your full worth and to not trust in the universe and trust in your own path and feel incomplete. It's a feeling of incompletion.
But we created that for us to learn something is the opposite.
Yes. So we experience what we're not so that we can learn what we are. We can remember what we are.
So fear is always created by us, manifested by us.
Yes. Who else could it be manifested by?
Right. I know. I'm just want to hear this again because we have so much fear on Earth. So let's say...
Yes, you're very fearful, but again, it's serving the purpose of teaching you something. And once you overcome it, and then you remember that there's really nothing to be fearful about.
So if you say, I'm so afraid of this, basically you're saying, I'm afraid of myself.
Yes.
So from your perspective, what would be the best way to overcome?
It's different for every individual, but you have to remember that the final outcome is always secured. Nothing can happen to you. You're an eternal soul. You're on a journey. This is one lifetime, and then you're going to have other lifetimes. And you're just here to learn and experience things. And some of those things are going to be difficult, and some of them are going to be hard. But they're things that you wanted to experience, so there's no reason to be afraid of them. And it's just a matter of trusting in the bigger picture and the bigger process, and then you realize there's nothing to be afraid of.
But I experienced, let's say, usually our worst fear is death, but I felt there's something worse than that. Is that possible? Or I think I know the answer, but let's say I feel there's a possibility that someone can put me into a place, like lock me up for millions of years, and no one can see me. And so this cannot happen unless I agree to.
That could only happen if your soul for some reason chose to have that experience.
But what is the purpose to experience that?
You'd have to ask the individual soul who wants to experience it. I don't see any reason that your soul would choose that, but you just have to realize nothing like that could happen without your consent. And you could lock yourself up, but the moment it was no longer serving you, you'd no longer be there.
I see. It's good to hear this, because I feel that's the worst thing, that I still wonder if that can happen, or if I wanted to have that experience. But you say when you're right in that space, and then you feel, I got it, and it's no longer serving me.
Right. Sometimes we create certain situations for us to realize something, and then once we realize it, oh, I learned the lesson. This situation is no longer serving me. I just move on.
So another thing I want to know, so let's say someone is being killed, murdered. So is this the case, the soul will leave the body before the body feels that pain?
It depends on if the soul wants to experience it or not. It can leave the body if it wants.
So the soul can choose to be tortured.
Yes, if it wants to.
So how we, as a human, can really understand what the soul wants?
You can't. Your physical mind cannot. It comes from your higher self. It comes through your intuition. It comes through your excitement. That's how you know what the soul wants.
So the mind can be like, oh, no, I don't want that.
Of course. The mind often is. Quite often the things that your soul wants, your mind will say, no, I don't want that. But the soul can see the bigger picture. The soul knows what is coming and what the result is going to be. And so will want to experience it.
I see. So let's say after we leave the body, in a way, we're going to be merged with our higher selves.
Then you just are your higher self.
Right. So then we no longer need the mind.
Correct. You don't need the physical mind anymore.
Right. But the physical mind is not in our brain or in our head. It's in the entire body.
Yes.
So as long as we're right on this planet Earth, we cannot say, I want to have no mind. That's not possible.
No, it's not. You need a mind to anchor yourself in physical reality.
So can we do this way, like live almost like a child and just, right, how to say, the mind doesn't need to be used to think, but just because the mind will let us know if we're hungry, we're thirsty, we are tired. We know what to do, but we don't need to go to the mind to think about anything more than that.
Yes, children are much more connected to their souls and to their higher selves. It's as you grow into an adolescent and adult, you start to become less connected. And then you're kind of returning to that space of, children are very trusting and they're very open. They're very connected to the other realms. So if you can come back to a childlike mindset, that will serve you, yes.
So let's say I want to know this. If a child, let's say 3-year-old, right, and you put this child in the forest, in the jungle, let's say, right, the animals would not attack or harm this child?
They might, depending on what that soul is wanting to experience.
I see.
Different question. What are usually the causes of skin disorders, such as like itchy, rough skin patches or like inflamed red skin?
It can be a variety of things, but sometimes it's an anxiety that's manifesting somewhere or a fear that's manifesting.
So to overcome this, we must know the cause.
Correct. It might help. Sometimes intuitives or chakra healers can identify what energy in the body might be causing that,
Or hypnosis.
or potentially hypnosis.